Picture this. A man walks into one of the most heavily surveilled casinos in the world, still wearing his motorcycle helmet, pulls out a weapon, and walks out with over $1 million in chips. Sounds like a movie, right? Wrong. This actually happened in Las Vegas, and what the Biker Bandit did next will blow your mind. Welcome to the dark side of Sin City, where 5 shocking crimes prove that truth really is stranger than fiction. Today we are diving deep into the criminal underworld of Las Vegas, uncovering stories so wild you will not believe they are real. From brazen heists to deadly revenge plots, these cases will leave you speechless. So buckle up, because we are about to explore the crimes that shook Las Vegas to its core. On December 14th, 2010, the Bellagio casino was buzzing with its usual excitement. Slot machines rang, cards shuffled, and nobody suspected what was about to happen. A motorcycle parked right out front. Nothing unusual in Vegas. But then a man walked through those famous doors, still wearing his motorcycle helmet. Security footage would later show what happened next. The man calmly approached a craps table, pulled out a gun, and demanded chips. The dealer, trained for situations like this, handed them over without resistance. Within minutes, the Biker Bandit was gone, disappearing into heavy traffic with over $1 million worth of casino chips. Here is where it gets interesting. This guy was not some criminal mastermind. He was staying at the Bellagio as a guest when he robbed it. Even better, he came back to the casino afterwards to drink and gamble. The guy literally robbed the place and then hung around like nothing happened. But his downfall came from an act of either stupidity or twisted generosity. He tossed a $25,000 chip into a Salvation Army donation bucket. When the bell ringer tried to cash it, red flags went everywhere. Then the Biker Bandit got cocky and started selling chips online. Police set up a sting operation, arranged to buy chips from him at the Bellagio, and boom, 29-year-old Anthony Carleo was arrested. The final twist? His father was a local judge. Carleo had also robbed another casino just 3 weeks before the Bellagio heist, walking away with $18,000. He ended up serving between 3 and 11 years. Not exactly the retirement plan he was hoping for. If you think kidnapping is rare in America, think again. But when it happens to the daughter of one of the most powerful casino moguls in Las Vegas, it becomes a whole different story. On July 26, 1993, Kevin Wynn finished her shift at the Mirage Casino, where her father, Steve Wynn, was the chairman. She worked out at the gym, had dinner with family, and headed home to her condo in Spanish Trail, an upscale gated community. She thought she was safe behind those security gates. She was wrong. When Kevin walked into her home that night, 2 masked men were waiting. They grabbed her at gunpoint, bound her, taped her eyes shut, and forced her to pose for photographs in her underwear. The men threatened to release the pictures if her father contacted police. Then they made their demand, $2.5 million. Here is where it gets crazy. Steve Wynn told them he could only get $1.45 million in cash from the Mirage Casino cage that night without raising suspicion. The kidnappers actually negotiated down and accepted the lower amount. Wynn grabbed the cash, which he described as stacked like bricks in a white plastic bag. He held it like a baby, he later testified. An employee dropped the money at Sonny's Saloon, a small bar near the casino. Once the kidnappers had the money, they called and told Wynn where to find his daughter. She was at McCarran International Airport, tied up but alive in the back seat of her black Audi. The whole ordeal lasted just over 2 hours. Now here is the beautiful part about criminal stupidity. The mastermind, Ray Marion Cuddy, walked into a Ferrari dealership in Newport Beach, California just days after the kidnapping. He put down $70,000 in cash as a down payment on a $183,000 Ferrari. When he came back to sign the paperwork, the FBI was waiting. The other accomplices were caught when investigators traced payphone calls from near the ransom drop to phones near the Wynn home. They also found surveillance footage of Kevin's car entering the airport, followed by a Volkswagen registered to one of the kidnappers. One investigator said the trail of evidence would choke a goat. Cuddy served 21 years and was released in 2015. Kevin Wynn later changed the spelling of her name and has largely stayed out of the public eye. Imagine starting a new job, and on your second day, you decide to burn the entire building down. That is exactly what happened at the Las Vegas Hilton in 19... Philip Klein was a troubled 23-year-old busboy who had only been working at the famous Hilton for 2 days. The hotel had hosted legends like Elvis and Liberace. On that fateful day, a fire broke out in an elevator lobby on the 8th floor. Klein acted like a hero at first. He alerted guests to evacuate and claimed he grabbed a wastebasket to throw water on the flames. People praised him for his quick thinking and bravery. But then he made a critical mistake during his interview with the police. He told detectives he filled a trash can with fire. Not water. Fire. That one slip of the tongue changed everything. Investigators started asking more questions. Why was Klein so close to where the fire started? How did he know to react so quickly? Under pressure, Klein broke down and confessed. He had deliberately started the fire. The blaze consumed much of the Hilton, killing 8 people and injuring over 200. Guests jumped from windows. Smoke filled the hallways. It was absolute chaos. The aftermath was devastating. Families lost loved ones. Survivors dealt with injuries and trauma. And all because a troubled busboy decided to commit arson on his second day of work. Klein was convicted of 8 counts of ending lives and sentenced to life in prison. His motive? Mental instability and a desire for attention. The Hilton fire remains one of the deadliest hotel fires in American history. It led to major changes in fire safety regulations for high-rise buildings across the country. Sometimes the person you least suspect turns out to be the most dangerous. And sometimes heroes are actually villains wearing a disguise. Las Vegas in 2007 was booming. Tourists packed the Strip. The Luxor Hotel, with its iconic pyramid shape, was a major attraction. But on May 7, something happened that sent shockwaves through the entire city. At the Luxor parking garage, a pipe bomb exploded. The blast took the life of 24-year-old Wilibaldo Durantes Antonio. This was not a random act of terrorism. This was personal, twisted revenge. The bomb had been placed on top of the victim's car, disguised by a simple styrofoam coffee cup. It was triggered by a motion sensor. When Antonio approached his vehicle, boom! The explosion was powerful enough to be heard throughout the area. Investigators quickly determined this was a targeted hit. The question was why and who. The answer turned out to be a toxic mix of jealousy and rage. Porfirio Duarte Herrera allegedly built the bomb for his friend Ruida Denvers. The reason? Antonio was dating Ruida's former girlfriend. That is right. A man ended up gone because he started dating someone's ex. The sophistication of the bomb terrified law enforcement. This was not some amateur explosive. It was carefully constructed with a motion sensor trigger. The bomber knew exactly what he was doing. If Antonio had parked in a different spot, if other people had been nearby, the death toll could have been much higher. The community was rattled. Parents worried about their kids. Casino employees looked twice at their cars. The Strip, which thrives on the illusion of safety and escapism, suddenly felt dangerous. The case highlighted how personal vendettas can turn into public nightmares. A crowded parking garage, a device that could have harmed dozens of innocent people, all because someone could not let go of the past. The suspects were eventually caught and prosecuted, but the fear lingered. In a city where millions of tourists visit each year, the Luxor bombing was a stark reminder that danger can hide in the most ordinary places. If you mess with the mob, you better be ready for the consequences. Al Bramlet learned this lesson the hard way. For over 20 years, from the 1950s to the early 1970s, Bramlet ran Local 226, the Las Vegas Culinary Workers Union. It was one of the most powerful unions in the entire country, representing thousands of service workers. But Bramlet was not your typical union boss. He was known for using violence and intimidation to get what he wanted. In 1907, Bramlet made a decision that would seal his fate. He ordered bombs to be placed in front of 2 non-union restaurants. His goal was simple: scare the owners into hiring union workers. But the bombs failed to detonate. Police discovered them before they could go off. Now Bramlet had a problem. He had hired a father and son duo, Thomas and Granby Hanley, to plant the bombs. When the job failed, Bramlet refused to pay them. Big mistake. The Hanleys were not the kind of people you stiff on a payment. They vowed revenge. 1 month after the botched bombing, the Hanleys grabbed Bramlet at gunpoint and forced him into a van. They demanded payment for the failed job. Bramlet, probably realizing he was in serious trouble, arranged for a $10,000 loan. The Hanleys took the money, but they were not satisfied. They drove Bramlet out to a remote area of the Las Vegas desert, and there, under the hot Nevada sun, they ended his life. The father and son team are now serving life sentences for the crime. The irony is almost too perfect. A man who built his career on violence and intimidation met his end at the hands of the very criminals he hired. Bramlet thought he was untouchable. He thought his position and power would protect him. But in the criminal underworld, nobody is safe, not even the people at the top. The desert outside Las Vegas has claimed many lives over the years. Mobsters, criminals, and people who crossed the wrong person have all ended up buried in the sand. Al Bramlet became just another name on that long, dark list. His story is a reminder that when you play with fire, eventually you get burned. Or in his case, when you hire criminals and refuse to pay them, you end up in a shallow grave in the desert. Image generations.